Hey, Jaime.
Hey, how's it going?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing good, doing good. Trying to stay safe out here.
Yeah, I, I definitely a couple of weeks ago did not expect to have a house full of kids for 5 weeks in a row.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, same here. Same here. I got both kids at home and trying to keep them busy with activities.
Well, yeah, and I spent half my day trying to go over the learning plan with my kid, and it basically ended up to where today's homework, it was the first day of at-home schooling, was basically for me to learn how to log in and check the homework. So the extent of today's homework was the teacher gave me homework.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah, same over here. We're on the same page.
Um, I saw on Facebook a lot of people completely overreacting to the Trump announcement that he was directing HUD to suspend all evictions and foreclosures.
Yes, yes. I saw that this morning a while ago. Yeah.
From my understanding and talking to Kevin Ortner, the CEO of Renters Warehouse, that really only applies to HUD-owned properties, not, obviously our properties. But I've talked to several landlords. I mean, with the courts the way they are, the JP courts are already closed. I don't think they're scheduling any cases before May. So I don't think whether or not you file an eviction or not doesn't matter. You're not going to be heard probably till mid to late May anyway. So it's kind of a moot point. Looks like we collected all of our rent for March at least, so that's good. I just got through going through my rent rolls this morning, but I was telling my wife I think we'll probably only have a 50% pay rate in April, I would imagine, because all indications, and I think the foreshadowing is that we're going to be in this current state for, anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds about right. Have you started talking to your tenants at all, like currently, or?
We sent, so Renters Warehouse is my my manager.
Mm-hmm.
They sent letters this week advising everyone that they were moving to a more of a virtual office, but they were still available, and telling them to reduce the people that come inside their homes and to protect the safety of their staff, that, to please only request emergency type repairs or visits, just for the safety of everyone involved, and encouraging them that if there was an interruption in their income, communication is key. And I forget the exact wording they used, but it was much to the effect of, as long as you talk to us, we're willing to work with you, but understand that we have mortgages to pay. So if you need to pay your rent on time.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, it's like we discussed, if, my wife and I've talked to Kevin Ortner now twice this week. I think, if the Grand Prairie police officer that's in one of my homes gets late, I handle that different than the waitress at Big Shucks that can't work anymore.
Right. Exactly.
I think it's just a case by case, and it's all about communication. I've got a friend of mine owns about 130 houses in the Dallas area. He called me yesterday, and he said that he's already got tenants sending him copies of letters where they've been laid off due to the coronavirus, and
Really?
their expectation. Yeah.
Wow.
And because there's some fast track unemployment benefits that are available.
Uh-huh.
If you get that layoff letter, and that's what his approach is anyone that, he's willing to help, give people resources and point them towards the right direction.
Gotcha.
And even telling them that if they get laid off and they have no source of income, they need to go apply for government benefits, because it's our belief, and it's what I've always said about owning rental property, is that if it gets bad enough, the government will start paying people's rent. Now, it may or may not be the amount on the lease, but I think most of us would agree, as long as we get some money, we're good, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, my biggest dilemma right now is what to do about new acquisitions and pending closings. I mean, that's why I'm watching this like a hawk, because I wouldn't mind buying a couple houses in the next couple weeks if I could get someone to work on them, and if I feel like this is going to blow over in 8 to 10 weeks, because if I feel all that, then it may be a good discounted buying opportunity. But if it's 12 to 15 weeks, well, now what are you going to do about this vacant house that's costing you taxes, insurance, and interest? So that's kind of that's the thing that's on my mind is I don't feel like this is going to be anything that is a large enough macro event that is going to tank us kind of for a year or two. But I think the next 3 months is definitely dicey. And then I feel like we could have a pretty good fast resurgence come summer, where things really kind of take off fast, which would be exciting, right? Because I was talking to Kevin Ortner again today about one of his favorite stocks is Delta, and he was talking about just looking at it. It's definitely on sale right now, and now it comes down to try to figure out what's the bottom, and once you figure out what the bottom is, be ready to take advantage of it. Well, not take advantage of it, capitalize on it. Because I think Delta stock was down 60% from a month ago. And it's a company with really good underlying financials. So, their assets are worth more than their company stock is right now. So, yeah, it's probably a good bet at what it's at right now. But if it goes down another 10 or 15%, it could be just a screaming good bet. So, I saw today that the United Auto Workers had sent a letter to all the manufacturers urging them to furlough and shut down plants. Obviously they would get, unemployment and the union benefits, but it's kind of funny. I look at what we're going to go through in the next 3 to 6 months, a lot like the dot bomb in early 2000, in the 2001 timeframe, which then set us up for a 4 to 5 year crazy run. And then obviously we had the big massive crash. So I think a little bit of patience, and I'm very fortunate myself. A year ago, I shut down my office, so now I don't have massive overhead and a bunch of employees that I got to worry about. So shelter in place just means I get to kind of barbecue more, I guess. But 30-year interest rates on the investor products is about to go up. I got a text yesterday from a CEO of one of the national companies telling me to get any files in this week. Rates look like they're about to go up, largely because it's risk-based pricing, right? They're not sure how much investor appetite there's going to be to buy bonds in the next 60, 90 days. So they raise the rates effectively really lowering their LTVs and making the loans less risky. So I think you're going to see some of that. I think a couple hard money lenders I've talked to that are on the national scale say they're lending, but they're not going to take on new customers, and they're only going to loan to experienced and solvent customers. So, but again, I think that'll be kind of like a knee-jerk 30-day thing, not a 60, 90-day thing. But the interest rates on the 30-year investor product, I think that could be a 3 to 6 month thing, especially if they have enough people take it, because then, you know, if you have enough people take it, why lower your rates? But that's kind of the stuff off the top of my head. Anybody got anything they want to specifically kind of talk about? No one.
Sorry, had to take a phone call.
Well, that's never a bad thing. Maybe people don't know how to unmute themselves. I'll just unmute everyone.
Bottom left-hand corner.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, so I just thought I'd provide a forum for everybody to chit chat, talk. Shelby, I know you and I have talked a lot over the last couple of days about, you know, what we're doing. I feel good about reducing LTVs a little bit that we purchased that, and you know, hedge fund houses. If you're looking.
One thing with all of this, I feel a little more confident that we're going to weed out a lot of the people who are buying things at a lot higher rates than they should be.
Right.
You know, we've been having the issue of being outbid on a lot of things for numbers that honestly shouldn't be happening. And I mean, that's one good point to look at in all this.
Yes, that's true.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Eliminate some competition, right?
I mean, I'm grateful
yeah,
that we have 2 rentals left ourselves in our inventory. We owner financed everything else, or actually we sold 12 of them, but you know, I haven't heard anything from my 2 renters yet. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Tim, just curious, how many properties do you guys have as rentals? I have about 40 units at rentals. So I was just kind of wondering.
Yeah, I mean, right now, you know, my inventory is right.
Oh.
You cut off and muted.
Oh, I'm muted?
Yep.
Oh.
There you go. You're good now.
We're right at 12. We spent the last couple of years selling all of our owner finance notes, getting rid of the rental properties that are low value, and kind of improving to higher value houses. So it's kind of funny. It's our portfolio size is kind of the smallest it's ever been, but it's actually more valuable than it's ever been.
Right. Yeah.
Which is interesting. I was going through, obviously trying to use my crystal ball, right? I was going through just looking at people's employment on the applications and the rentals, just trying to figure out, okay, where do they all work? And, you know, the good news is we've got some cops, we've got some teachers, we've got some corporate types that are in industries that I don't think are going to be affected, you know, kind of people that can work from home or still have to go to work. We don't have a lot of restaurant people, you know, because people can't afford. We have the people that pay $1,600 to $1,800 a month in rent versus the people that pay $1,000 to $1,500. So I think there's one house where it looks like we may have a construction worker type person in there that, you know, I was telling Randy McFeely today that I was at 7-Eleven at 8:30 this morning grabbing a Diet Coke for my wife, and there wasn't a soul in there. And normally at 8:30 in the morning at 7-Eleven, all the labor crews are kind of cycling through, getting their drinks and snacks and lunches and breakfasts, and normally it's wall to wall people. So it was a little bit concerning to me, like, okay, what's happening to construction projects? Are the, you know, because what'll happen, what I'm not worried about, but what I'm kind of looking for is, do the larger crews stop working because they're afraid they're not going to get paid by the investor or the, the business. And, and then what's the domino effect into the consumer world? And then, look out beyond that, what's the domino effect to consumer credit? And then, because we definitely have a personal debt bubble in this nation right now. And so, it's kind of like, what's going to happen with that? That's something it's very interesting. I mean, because these car loans, these credit cards, just personal debts at an all-time high in this nation. And everybody's living paycheck to paycheck. And if paychecks stop coming for I read a number of 30% of people are kind of in that service connected role, including flight attendants, mechanics, and all that. What does that do to the default rates? And then, we saw what happens when people start defaulting on debt. It's more what happens to the financial systems that underlie it that, is kind of the big issue that you kind of worry about.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to say worry, right? I mean, I'm not worried. I do, because we saw that this virus really started in China in November, and it got about to the point we're at in early January, and here we are mid-March, and China's coming back online, right? So it's kind of, if you go back and kind of layer it over what they saw, and they delayed a lot of action because they were trying to hide it from everyone. I feel like 8 weeks on the long term from last week is will kind of be where we're at. That's the thing though, that puts you into mid-May. So do kids ever go back to school? How long does it take to bring back on the service people? That's the, so it's probably June before you really into July. But at the same token, we have a corporate rent house that we just added to our portfolio, leased it up in less than a week the first time. And then the guy's moving out in May, I want to say, early May. And we had a GE executive that's relocating here sign a lease yesterday for 6 months starting in May. So she obviously doesn't feel like she's not coming to town. But, on the same token, now it's Jennifer and I were having the discussion, who do we have to pay to sanitize the house after the current occupant leaves? I think you're going to see some of that ripple through the Airbnb industry, right? Because if you're not sanitizing the house, the Airbnbs become branded as the place to go to get coronavirus.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just when we talked about it, right? Because our Airbnb in San Antonio isn't online yet, but we were talking about it. If it was online, we'd probably just take it off the market for the next, 30 to 60 days, just to avoid the stigma, the negative effects of having an infectious disease in your property.
Yeah, I just left one on Sunday and I Lysoled it myself and told them that. I was just being courteous.
Oh, were you at an Airbnb?
Yeah, it was a camper, but $60 a night to stay on several acres of land with nobody else was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, Travis Bauckham down in Waco, after he had 5 or 6 cancellations, I believe he went ahead and just took all his off the market. He had Airbnbs over by the silos. Because, at that point, does your vacancy cost really outweigh, is that cheaper than the extra cleaning or the potential liability? Who knows?
Yeah. I think this is going to be kind of short term. I think, like you were saying, probably about a good 6 weeks. And then things, we're going to see the impact that's happening right now, in the few months ahead of us. Sometime during the summer in August, we're going to start seeing all the numbers come out. Like, this is how the economy has been doing, that kind of thing. And that's what we're going to see, all like, we're in a recession mode and that kind of thing. Because right now, we don't see any changes because all the projects that were going on, there was funding for those projects, so things kind of continue the same. But then in the next few months, probably we'll see some type of impact.
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't even think about it till they were talking today. They've asked all dental offices to stop providing services because they need the protective equipment to go to the people fighting the virus. So it's like, I mean, just imagine. I mean, that's a lot of people between the receptionist, the dental hygienist, the techs. I mean, I guess it's a good time to sell masks, but it's probably not a good time to be the person that needs them.
The plastics industry is great to be profiting in right now.
Right. Yeah, I think it's, I go back to 2008 and 2007, really, when the mortgage market collapsed and, we had all those vacant houses and this doesn't feel like that. I mean, I applaud the government. At least they're acting fast and not, just saying, oh, we'll see. But I wonder if they're acting too fast because, even if they sent every person in America $1,000 check right now, it's not like those people are going to pay rent. They're going to have to go stand in line for toilet paper. This morning I went over to Tom Thumb next to my house at 7 o'clock, waited in line, and, because my father-in-law is 80 something and I need to go do the shopping for him. And there was nothing left. By the time I was standing by the wrong door, they opened the other door first. So people had already filled up their cart before then. One interesting thing, the manager told me that, they have a limit of one per right now package. And so, but they count a family package the same as a package of 4. So one lady had tried to buy 3 packages of 4, which was equal to the family pack. And they made her put 2 back. And by the time she went back, there were no more family packs. So,
yeah.
I never thought we'd be looking at the toilet paper ration line in America, but I guess, I guess that's where we're at.
Yeah.
We need some for real. We got some extra. we buy in bulk anyway.
Right. We'll trade toilet paper for gold. So then, Shelby, we've got that one house that we're supposed to close on, and it's got a 30-day lease back, and that actually kind of makes you feel a little better, but then you wonder, well, if that lease back, what if the lady can't find something to move, or what if we're still restricted on where we can go? And what does that do? So that's the other concern, is what happens to the closing timelines if 3 weeks from now we're looking at a shelter-in-place order across the nation like it is New York. Obviously, there won't be a whole lot of people getting a moving truck and selling their house.
Yeah.
Hey, Tony, welcome to the call.
Hey, Tim, how are you?
I'm finer than frogs there. We're just chit-chatting.
Hey, thanks for setting this up. I just got
Oh,
through looking.
Lord. You just got through looking at what?
Just got through looking at a house.
This guy's brave. He's got a live video stream and talking on a conference call as he drives in the virus waters. Well, so tell me about the house you looked at. Are you reducing what you're offering? Are you pushing the timeline out? How are you approaching that?
Yeah, on this one, it's a bit of a fluke. It was my mother-in-law and father-in-law's neighbor, and we'd been talking for months and months. And he finally, now when this virus hit, now he's saying, hey, let's go ahead and just, I've been trying to kind of say, hey, let me know when you're wanting to sell. And now he's interested in getting me over there, So yeah, it was kind of a fluke of a setup. I'm going to pull over here. So I think he's gotten to be where he's getting a little panic, like, oh crap, I should have listed this, earlier. So yeah, so it wasn't it wasn't it wasn't a deal, I'll be honest with you. He's been working on it, and yeah, it was just almost like a courtesy call.
Right. And if you had been able to get it, would you be wanting to close like in a week, in 2 weeks, in a month?
Yeah, that's a little, yeah, I was wanting to, I showed him some owner finance options, just taking over his note and paying him out his equity over time. I probably would have set up a 30-day close for that, but just because I can, there's a lot of options there. I can actually, in this particular case, I can actually use that house. My in-laws are not in good health. And so, I could use it for caregivers or some other things. So, that it was kind of a unique situation.
Right. Yeah, I'm on the fence on whether I want to actually close on anything like before mid-April. But at the same token, I was thinking today, kind of out of the box, is now the time to go to try to get some seller finance from some of these sellers. And, if they're feeling the pinch, can you get some seller financing out of them? And that's something I don't offer a whole lot. I'm kind of a one-trick pony. I'm normally just here's the cash price, take it or leave it. But I had Eddie Speed at the mastermind last month, and it's one of those things I'm thinking about. It's now the time to try to get some terms.
Mm. So you haven't been doing much of that?
No, I just never liked it. I mean, I don't mind like a true seller finance. I don't like sub-twos or wraps or any of that. I feel like I'm setting someone up for a massive disappointment if something happens to me, right? It's not about I would mean to do it. It's about if something happened to me. And then also, there is a due on sale clause, and the old adage, don't build your castle on sinking sand.
Yeah, I get that. Have you heard anything? I know I saw your post about the lien releases and stuff yesterday. We have an eviction. We do have a close that we've been working on for like 60 days based on the eviction of the existing tenants. It's kind of part of the special provisions. And the appeal date was today, the appeal deadline for the tenants. They're basically squatters. It was a family house where one brother was living there, and then he got arrested, and then his buddies moved in, and the family wants to sell. And we have an eviction appeal date. The deadline for appeal was today, but we don't know. I saw Trump said that he was, for the housing and urban development, they were postponing that, but I don't think that applies to City of Dallas, does it?
I don't think so, but I know the courts are allowing you to do filings online right now, but I know they're not hearing anything. Even criminal cases have been moved back to May. So, I don't know if they get an automatic extension or, I don't even know how that works.
Yeah. Okay. I was just curious if you'd heard anything.
I think I had that one title company told me that they couldn't get payoffs on city liens. It was specifically a payoff. And that's because that's done by like the code enforcement department, the payoffs are. So I'm not sure. And I know a lot of the JP courts aren't open, but I don't know about that issue.
Did that screw you over on that deal? Or are you able to set up an escrow or something like that for that probable amount?
I think I think they're trying to find a workaround right now, and I'll know more here soon. Shelby's working on that.
Okay. Yeah, we also, I don't know if you remember, I'm the one that, I posted some of your Terry Black's pictures out at deepellum.com.
Yeah.
So we run deepellum.com, and everything's canceled there too, all the shows and events, and yeah, it's just crazy.
Well, it's crazy specifically because of what it's doing to those small businesses. and their employee. And I mean, and I've obviously got a pretty big affinity to the barbecue community, but you know, a lot of those are husband and wife, mom and pop operations, and you know, they just don't have many options right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I haven't I haven't reached the conclusion on the City of Dallas issue that I brought up yesterday. I was actually just trying to use the public forum as a way to get some sort of feedback because I wanted to validate what I was being told.
Yeah. It sounded like there was some.
I've had some.
Yeah.
I've had some people tell me that it wasn't true, and I've had some people tell me it is true. I really can't get a solid answer out of them, but we shall see. Hey, Anton, Glenn, y'all got anything you're working on?
Silence.
Tim, are you still aggressively mailing?
Yeah, so my mailing vendor reached out to me yesterday morning and asked me if I wanted to continue. I talked it over with Shelby and Randy. I talked it over with my wife. I decided to proceed with this week as normal because they had to process it today to get it out on Friday. I will be reassessing that on Monday or Tuesday, just kind of looking at what's going on. I may cut it in half. I don't think I would stop it. But I may scale it back for a week or two. I'm not certain yet. As for this week, the answer to that question would be I continued as kind of business as normal as usual for my marketing.
Yeah, because those who are looking to sell are going to hold on to it anyways. I mean, you've got the bitter Betties who will call and tell you to take them off the list, but the ones who are just holding back right now, they'll hold on to it and contact us in a couple weeks, waiting to see what happens.
Did you say bitter Betty?
I did. You like that?
That's a new one. I loved it.
I come up with fun words all the time.
Bitter Betty. That sounds a whole lot better than when I say angry old lady.
That's the foreclosure thing. With them halting, or not foreclosures, evictions, would any of you be more apt to offer cash for keys to get people out if you can't file the eviction?
I guess that would be a good thing to do. I mean, I would probably consider that if the tenant has been there for 2 months not paying rent.
Right.
You know.
Not necessarily your long-term ones that you know are struggling, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be something I would consider in maybe May or June if, say, someone had gotten to where they were a 30, 60-day late, maybe had lost their job for the foreseeable future, and it felt like we weren't going to get, like, ever caught up. And, you know, and because at the end of the day, anytime you go into an eviction court, right, you know, if you went into an eviction court in the next 3 to 6 months, I mean, there's a high probability that you don't win, you know, with as liberal as the courts have become. And so, yeah, I may, you know, look at the legal costs and all that and say, hey, tell you what, you know, I know you had a bad run, but I got to pay my mortgage. Why don't I just give you $1,000 for moving expenses?
Yeah.
Unless it was like the cop or the nurse or someone that you knew was still getting paid and they were just taking advantage of the system. Because that's what I fear is, you know, that presidential news conference today basically gave every tenant in America permission not to pay their rent.
That's the way it feels. Yeah, that's the way it feels.
And you want to believe in the, you know, the goodness of people, and, you know, people don't want to get behind and people want to have a place to live, but,
yeah,
you know, the same people that are wearing, you know, that are taking all the toilet paper off the shelves and,
Right.
you know, I mean, Lord, the other day I was over at Tom Thumb and I saw this family, a husband, wife, and their 3 kids, and they all had face masks on. They all had gloves on. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, man, if you thought it was that dangerous, why not leave them in the car? I mean, why are all 5 of you in here if it's that dangerous? But,
Wow.
you know, obviously I didn't say anything to them. I just walked off.
Yeah. Yesterday I was talking to some apartment investors, and they have a lot of apartments and things like that. And then they said they were communicating with their tenants, people that were going to get impacted, like let's say somebody got sick or something like that, or lost their job, that they were implementing a 6-month payment plan for those tenants. So, like,
Yeah.
I guess one of the things that I was trying to see how I can communicate with the tenants right now, and pretty much communicate to them that, like, yeah, this, you might go through some hard times, but that doesn't mean that you won't pay rent. You know what I mean? Either now or later. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, just a letter that's, you know, kind of, I see a subject line on an email that's, you know, communication is key, right?
right.
And if we understand you're going to be going through hard times, we are too.
Yeah.
We have to pay our mortgage. We can, you know, we can work with you, but simple not paying anything is just not something we can work with.
Exactly. Right.
And when all these bans are lifted, that's when we're going to be looking at those tenants and firing them.
Exactly, because I mean, yeah, I mean, it's like, I mean, of course, mortgages need to be paid. I mean, it's not like I'm going to be saying, oh, I'm not going to send my loan payments, you know, because that's going to affect me long term. And it's basically the same thing that I want to communicate kind of the tenants, like, well, you know, I mean, some of those tenants taking advantage of like not paying rent because nobody's paying rent or that kind of thing. And we want to communicate to them, like, look, this can impact you in a few months. So, you know, it's better not to, you know, if you're not having a hard time, it's better to pay, you know?
Right. Yeah, I think proactive communication on our part. I mean, that's my manager already did it, but I think proactive communication as a landlord only sets the precedence of, you know, you're willing to proactively communicate and you expect them to as well.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, I would work up a letter and, you know, just avoid anything that could be like a fair housing thing, right?
Exactly. Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, work up a letter and send it out like, you know, hey, we're here to help, you know, as long as you talk to us. But
Yeah.
I think that's always been my philosophy with all my tenants, right? Like, if
That's
you treat me, if you treat me with respect, I'll treat you with respect. If you,
Yeah.
you know, ditch and dodge me, then I'm probably going to not treat you with a lot of respect.
Exactly. Yeah.
Kind of like my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as we're not raising our voice at each other and we're talking, then that's fine. But if you want to start yelling, then, you know, I'll yell louder.
Yeah.
Well, what else? Anybody else got anything to talk about?
Because he wasn't responding to us, he said he's on the phone.
Have you
Well,
guys heard, just a quick question about, like, I know they were mentioning about helping out small businesses. Do landlords or, you know, these LLCs or entities, would they qualify for like a small business loans with low interest? Let's say like if you know, if you could prove you got impacted, things like that.
My wife was looking on the SBA website today,
Uh-huh.
and Texas was not listed yet as one of the places where some program she was looking at was available.
Yeah, the disaster area.
I would imagine that it will be, you know, obviously in a week or so, but, you know, it's just part of the general bias in the past towards landlords. We always seem to not be eligible for the stuff that, you know, that everybody else gets, but I would hope so.
Right. I mean, having Trump as president, you know, him being a real estate investor, you know, he should understand how this is like. So we hope.
Well, yeah, and you just hope that it comes down to, you know, I mean, you know, Jamie, you've got, you know, 40 units, but, you know, you're not a small time guy, but, you know, we don't have the $10 million commercial, you know, the $100 million commercial building in Manhattan.
Right.
So, yeah, you would hope so. You know, they kept saying investors with less than 500 employees is, or companies with less than 500 employees is what they're referring to as small. So,
Right.
you know, I have 0, so well, full time.
Yeah, me too. All I have is contractors, so you know. Yeah, well, we'll see.
But I definitely think we're in uncharted waters. I hope everybody just stays in touch, and we'll do a couple more of these as things progress. And as always, I learn just as much as I share. So, you know, guys, I appreciate you sharing.
I definitely think these kinds of meetings helps everybody with their mindset, because we're not all just, you know, sitting there wondering what's going on by ourselves or scrolling Facebook or things like that. But talking to each other definitely helps.
Right.
Yeah, this is really helpful. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you, Tim. Thank you.
Yeah, guys. Y'all have a great day.
You do the same.
You too.